Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining and welcome back to Wall Street Silver. Our guest today is Brian Beamish. He's been in the gold and silver space for 30 years, and he's also a former commodities broker. How are you, sir?
Well, I'm good. And yourself?
I'm doing pretty good. Thank you so much for joining us on Wall Street Silver. I wanted to get you on to talk about the silver gold market, everything that's been happening lately. First off, gold and precious metals have been really taken off recently. People are saying it's either geopolitical, could be central banks buying all this amount. Why do you think gold and silver is has been taken off recently?
Well, I think it's appropriate part of the cycle. I'm a very big fan of cycle analysis, and this is appropriate. About once every 4 or 5 years, we go through nice friendly metals markets. So I think it's a function of the economic cycle. But I'd also say too, as you pointed out, I was a commodities broker for a number of years.
Hmm.
I do believe that the commodity space itself is going through a repricing event, which usually happens about once every 40 years or so.
Why do
So,
you think that is? Why do you think they're going through a repricing event?
there's a lot to do with the way money works in our society.
Right.
You don't want to, like I think I had said before we started this conversation, we don't want to go down rabbit holes because we could be here all afternoon. But very simply put, I mean, you're familiar, you've heard the expression from Klaus, right? The Great Reset, right?
Right,
Well,
right.
that's what this is all about, is sort of the definition of money. What is the value of money? And more importantly, I suppose, for your audience, are there other assets in the world that have historically been sort of deemed money?
Right.
And in the space of this revaluation of what the definition of money is, how do those assets act? And what I've actually just behind me in my background, I put out a tweet just recently. One commodity in particular, cocoa, is going through its repricing event. And these happen about once every 40 years or so, like I said. A few years ago, you remember lumber prices went crazy.
Yeah, yeah, you're
We're
right.
just
Lumber prices went crazy a few years ago, and just last week, 2 weeks ago, cocoa prices. Now, will that cocoa prices affect other stuff in the market, or is it going to have a contagion effect, or you're just going to see repricing of many commodities, like what you're saying, silver and all
it's
the other?
it's sort of like the traders just go from one market to the next market to the next market. Because you remember a year or two ago, it was the wheat market. Remember how
Yeah,
wheat
that's right.
prices
Yeah, it
went
was
crazy?
crazy like 2, 3 years ago.
Right. And the image that I have just behind me, the image on the left, I don't know whether your viewers can see. I kind of did this.
Yes.
It's kind of a fun little illustration. But one is valuing the commodity just in dollar terms, what you would sort of see open up the newspaper.
Right.
And you might see prices go absolutely crazy. Like you think that the silver market is actually in a bull market now. You ain't seen nothing yet.
Really? Wow.
I mean, this is going to get crazy by the end of all of this.
But do you believe, Brian, that they, like central banks, like the US, because their US dollar is not backed by gold and only interest, do you believe that they cannot allow gold and silver to reach these crazy astronomical prices because then the US dollar would be done because they're just it's not backed
No,
by anything?
again, we're in the process of redefining what money is.
Oh, right, right, right.
So if you just simply say, well, population, well, society, we don't have any choice. Your governments are deficit spending. They are devaluing the currency with every passing day with these deficits that are just
Right.
unending.
Yeah.
You're just going to have to get used to the fact that you're going to have to add a zero onto the end of all the prices of everything that you see in your society. So
Jeez.
stock prices, they go zooming up. Like I said, wheat prices, cocoa prices right now are going zooming up. Well, it's only a question of time until gold and silver have their repricing event, in my humble opinion.
Yeah,
It's
and
just
I believe
inevitable.
that too. I believe it's a matter of time. But I'm just saying, like, on the other side of it, when Gaddafi wanted to sell or sell his oil in gold dinars, right before he did that, boom, the U.S. went in. Even Iraq,
Well, I'm not gonna comment on messing with the hegemony
right,
and not following sort of the collective game plan.
Right.
But I think that it's been very well telegraphed that, and again, this is getting down rabbit holes, but the banking system was bailed out in 2008, and that sort of started this, like the image that you see on the right is that you
Right.
see the orange line is the money supply.
Right.
And if you are a fan of Mr. Friedman, Milton Friedman, he would say inflation is nothing more than just a function of the money supply.
Right.
So this isn't really like an if, it's already happened.
Wow.
It's just the irony of it all is that, the consumer right now is going to McDonald's and finding that a Big Mac is like $20.
Yeah.
I mean, the value of money itself is being repriced as we speak.
Wow.
The irony of it all is that, God, I remember as a commodities broker years and years and years ago, silver itself is actually like a byproduct in the mining business. And I used to remember talking at the very bottom of the last commodity trough market. A lot of miners, they would just stockpile silver ore because it just wasn't economical to produce it.
Really?
So, oh yeah, I mean, I have long time stories. I don't know whether you remember the days of Bre-X. Do you remember Bre-X?
No, I was born in 97.
Oh, okay. Ironically enough, that was actually right around the days of Bre-X. So
Oh,
do yourself
really?
a favor. And it was a scandal in the gold market, out of Indonesia of all places.
Mm-hmm.
And it was sort of like the final death knell. I was a broker through that period, and you couldn't give away gold stocks. You literally couldn't give them away. That
Really?
was during, remember the dot-com boom, and everybody was
Right.
buying like domain names to get rich and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So, these things all have cycles. They come and go, cycle wise. But, and I actually think on balance that we are actually heading into a period where you're going to see commodities actually underperform. But,
Like silver and gold as well?
well, over the next 10, 20 years, probably, but we have to get through the repricing of the value of money first.
Right.
So it's kind of difficult. There's a lot of moving parts here. But, like I said, the orange line that you see on the chart, right? That's
Right.
the
That's
M2 money supply.
and what's the other one underneath the orange? What is that representing? Yeah.
So the orange line is the money supply.
Right.
The line below it, the little graph that you see right
Right.
at the bottom here,
Right.
this is the silver price if you price silver in these diluted units.
Right.
So this is scary because this, like, you see where my mouse, I guess my mouse is not
No,
on
no,
here.
it's not on the screen. But
But
what pricing does it get to? Or right now?
well, it's a relative price. So, like I said, the image on the left is silver priced in dollars. Like if you opened up the newspaper, oh, there's silver, $20, $30 an ounce, right?
Right.
That's the image on the left. And you can see the 1980 peak around, 40, $50. And then we had another peak here, 2011, 40, $50 kind of idea. But the image on the right is actually this same commodity, but taking into the massive dilution of the currency. So, what is the value of these things that this silver is actually being priced in?
Right.
And if you keep that number constant, then actually silver it's basically at the same price as it was back in 2000.
What was that? What was the price at 50 or
Well, here's the price in real dollars in 2000. It was $4 an ounce.
right? So what
So
was
here we are at $28. And if we take into account the money dilution, we're actually at the same price. So the
wow.
question you have to ask yourself is, what would this price, it's 28 now, but what would this price have to be to just say get back to 50% of the range? Remember, this is the 1980 peak for silver, way over here. This last fear cycle apex in 1981,
Right.
the chart on the right hand side of the screen. So if we just look at this range, here's 50% of that range.
Yeah.
So if price just goes back to 50%, and like I said, look at my Twitter feed at CR Investor on Twitter. And I actually did a study of cocoa prices, and cocoa prices right now are starting to approach that 50% line.
Wow. And
So
what
what
would
was
silver be right now then?
that's the
Yeah,
question,
that's the
right? So
question.
these numbers, if it's on a relative basis, this
Right.
is like $200-300 an ounce.
No way for silver.
Yeah. Isn't that remarkable?
Wow. And
Well, but see,
when
the point here
is that when the great
if it costs $20 to go to McDonald's and buy a Big Mac,
right.
shouldn't silver prices be substantially higher than the cost of a Big Mac?
And when does that happen when the big reset comes, when you have money or like because
Well,
you were talking
the
about Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum, they're trying to redefine the term of money and what it is. So would that just be when we go into a digital stage and a digital currency when the Great Reset
no,
happened? No?
keep in mind. I mean, what was the price of gold in the Great Depression? Right, it was they pegged it $32 an ounce.
Right, right.
Right, and the next cycle later, 40 years later, what was the price of gold? Well, it was about $300 an ounce.
And it keeps
Like I
going and
said, in
going.
2000, there when you couldn't give away gold and silver, you can see it here. You couldn't give away silver in 2000. Like I said, it was a byproduct in the mining industry.
Yeah,
If you look at the chart on the left, right, this is the silver prices down, and this is sort of the greed cycle. I teach this concept called the fear and greed cycle, and the way the markets just oscillate back and forth. So if you use that same logic, every 40 years they've got to basically 10x the price. Like I said, gold was $30 when it was pegged. Then in the
right.
next cycle it was 300. Sounds to me like gold should probably be $3,000 around now,
Yeah,
right?
that makes way more sense.
The interesting thing about silver is that silver, like the state of Arizona, if I'm not mistaken, I think they actually have passed a law that silver is technically currency.
Really?
Yeah, that happened about 10, 15 years ago. And of course, the banksters, they did not like that. They were
Right.
not happy about that. But Arizona is like one of the last sort of bastions of freedom out there. And I don't know, things might
Silver's
have
still real
changed quite a
money out
bit.
there.
So just the point being that, like I said, go to my Twitter feed. I can't show you, I just have
Yeah,
this
yeah.
image in my
I'm gonna put
background here today.
I'm gonna put
But
your Twitter in the description below so that people
yeah,
can
and you
meet
can
you and
see the associated chart with this is cocoa prices.
right,
And the chart on the right hand side of my background here,
right.
basically cocoa prices are, I mean, they're literally going straight up right now.
To where
And
they are, where they're supposed to be.
well, that's the irony of it all, is that if we go to where we're supposed to be, a lot of these commodities actually need to make new highs.
Wow.
So, like you still see the silver price. What would silver prices have to be in real dollars to take out this old high that you see on the chart on the right, considering the growth of the money supply?
So it should
I
be
mean, the
around
numbers
200.
could be staggering.
Yeah, it could be around 200 an ounce, which is incredible.
Well, it could be a lot more than that. But
Wow.
the issue here, sadly, of course, is, and the sad part about it is the banksters, every once in a while, they'll hint at it. They'll say, this fiscal policy is unsustainable. And then they'll just leave it at that. Everybody knows that this fiscal policy, I mean, we're heading into the days of Weimar Germany here.
I agree with you.
It's,
And
it's
that's probably
getting
why
really
we're
scary.
gonna start seeing commodity repricing and just like what we're seeing now with
Well, we are
gold.
seeing it. It is
Yeah.
happening right in front of your eyes.
Wow.
So, I mean, like I said, a few years ago, through the sickness, they ran the lumber market.
Then
They
weed,
came up with a war in Eastern Europe, so that gave them the excuse to run up the wheat market. Like I said, I don't know what the excuse du jour is to run the cocoa market, but it's being
it was a
repriced.
drought. It's a drought. I read the articles. It's a drought in a certain type.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure, yeah. That's it's a drought. Yeah, yeah, sure, okay.
Yeah,
It'll
it
be
makes sense. Yeah.
like, do you even know why silver prices went as high as they did in 1980? What I
Because the
find
Hunt brothers,
fascinating
right?
is most people don't even know. Are you familiar with the Hunt brothers?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I knew our listeners and me myself, for sure we've heard lots about the Hunt brothers, but
All right.
they try to do it in the paper market though,
I would not be surprised if we have another sort of Hunt brothers kind of event happening. I
where you have
mean,
like billionaires starting to
well, you see,
accumulate.
who is going in and I want my Bitcoin ETFs, So, I
Yeah,
mean, what do they call
yeah.
that? Digital gold, all right?
Right. Yeah. You're starting to see
Um,
a lot of countries starting to push that digital gold.
yeah, I mean, it's that's one of the distractions that I've had over the past 5, 10 years is I've got to play in the crypto space. So I think I've gotten to know it pretty well. And actually, that was sort of one of my main objectives in life was that I wanted to be a know-it-all, and I've done the stockbroker thing, I've done the financial planner thing. I was a licensed options broker, commodities broker.
Wow.
I was a prop firm trader. I mean, I've basically done everything under the sun. And now, interestingly enough, I've taught people how to behave in the market for 10 years. Can't believe it's been 10 years that I've been running this program. So.
Yeah, well, Brian, it's such a huge pleasure having you come down to Wall Street Silver. It's your first time, and hopefully, as the market develops, we'd love to have you back on soon.
Sure.
But yeah, such a huge pleasure having you on, and I'll put your links and your social media in the description below, so that way people can connect with you easier.
All right. Appreciate it. It's often nice chatting with you.
Yes, and in the future, as markets develop, I'd love to have you back on.
I'm always at what a DM away.
Awesome. Okay, talk to you guys all soon. Take care.